We are talking 203k's.
So we're trying something, I guess you'd call it a little audacious today.
Hmm.
Usually with financial advice, you get one of two things, right? You either get the high-level philosophy.
To change your mindset stuff.
Exactly. The stuff that gets you fired up, but then you have like zero practical steps to take. Or you get the super dry, government-issued technical manual.
The how without the why. Or the why without the how. And, well, neither one is really enough on its own, is it?
Not at all. So for this deep dive, we are mashing them together. We're taking the rich dad philosophy, specifically the Cash Flow Quadrant from Robert Kiyosaki.
Right.
And we are forcing it to collide with a very gritty, very specific government mortgage program from HUD.gov. It's called the FHA 203k.
And we've got some notes from a real estate expert, Aaron, the house person, to kind of bridge that gap.
Yeah.
And the mission here is, I think, pretty specific. We want to show you how this kind of obscure government loan can almost act as a cheat code.
A cheat code for adulthood. I like that.
It's a way to take that big abstract idea of financial freedom and actually do it with a tool that's available to almost anyone, even if you don't have a pile of cash sitting around.
Okay, but before we get to the loan itself, the vehicle, we have to look at the map. The source material leans so heavily on this idea of the cash flow quadrant. I feel like I see this diagram on Instagram every other day, but for clarity, let's break it down. What are we actually looking at?
It's a framework. It's for understanding where your money comes from. But more importantly, it's about how the system, the tax code, treats you based on where that money comes from.
Okay.
So just imagine a square divided into 4. On the left side, you've got E and S.
E is for employee. That's the default setting for most of us.
That's right. The E trades time for money. You have a job, you get a salary, it's secure, it's predictable. And this is the key thing, it is the highest taxed income there is.
The system is designed to take its cut before you even see it.
Before you even see it,
Yeah.
exactly.
Okay, so then below that is the S. This one always confuses me. It's self-employed or small business. To me, that sounds like the dream. You're your own boss.
That's the most common trap. See, in the S quadrant, you don't really own a business. You own a job.
A job.
Think of a dentist or like a high-end consultant. Sure, they charge a lot of money, but if that dentist doesn't have their hands in someone's mouth, they don't get paid.
So if they go to Bali for a month, their income drops to 0.
It gets worse. Their overhead, their office rent, that probably continues. The S is often a perfectionist who says, if you want it done right, you have to do it yourself.
They are the system.
They are. They have independence, sure, but they don't have freedom.
So the distinction isn't, do I have a boss? It's more like, does my income require my physical presence?
You nailed it. And that's the big jump to the right side of the quadrant, the B and the I.
B for business owner.
Right. And the definition here is really specific. It's someone who owns a system and then hires people to run that system. A true B can leave for a year, come back, and the business is more profitable than when they left.
Wow. That sounds impossible. And then I is just
Investor.
investor. That's where your money is working for you. It's pure passive income. You put money in and more money comes out, whether you're working, sleeping, whatever. And the tax code rewards this side heavily.
Why is that?
The government wants 2 things, housing and jobs. So they give massive tax breaks to the people, the B's and the I's who provide them.
So the whole conflict is that school trains us to be good ES and S's. We're taught to chase security.
But the real wealth and the tax advantages, they're found in freedom, on the right side.
Right. But here's the problem. Shifting from the left to the right, that usually takes money. It takes capital. You can't just decide to be an investor if you're living paycheck to paycheck.
You need an entry point.
And that is where the second part of our stack comes in, the FHA 203k loan.
The government tool. Now, I've looked at the HUD documents, and it looks like a mortgage, but with a twist. Why is this specific loan the key to the strategy?
Because it solves the classic catch-22 of real estate investing.
Okay.
So to get a good deal, you usually have to buy a fixer-upper, a house that needs work. But if a house needs a lot of work, say the roof is shot or the kitchen's gutted, a normal bank won't give you a loan on it.
Why not? I mean, if I'm willing to buy it, why does the bank care?
It's all about collateral. The bank sees the house as their safety net. If you default, they have to sell it. And they don't want to be stuck with a house that's not livable.
So cash investors just swoop in, buy these ugly houses cheap, fix them and flip them.
And the rich get richer. Usually, yes. But the 203k changes that whole game. It's insured by the FHA, which gives the bank the confidence to lend you the money.
Okay.
And it lets you wrap the purchase price of the house plus the construction costs into a single mortgage.
So I don't need to get like a high-interest personal loan to fix the place up?
No, it's all one monthly payment at a normal mortgage interest rate, spread out over 30 years.
Okay, walk me through the mechanics of that, though. Let's say I find a house for $200,000, but it needs $50,000 in work. Does the bank just hand me a check for $50,000 at closing and say good luck?
No, definitely not. That would be a complete disaster. The bank acts like a very strict parent here.
Right.
They close the loan for $250,000, the seller gets their $200,000. But that extra $50,000, it goes into a restricted escrow account. You never actually touch that money.
So how does my contractor get paid?
Through a series of draws. The contractor does the first phase of work, say the demolition. A HUD consultant comes out, inspects it, and says, yep, this is done right. Then and only then does the bank cut a check.
Ah, I see. So the bank is protecting itself from me taking that reno money and, I don't know, buying a Tesla.
Exactly. It safeguards the whole project. And there are two versions of this loan. There's the limited 203K, which is for smaller cosmetic stuff.
Like kitchens, paint, carpet.
Yeah, up to around $35,000 to $75,000.
Yeah.
Depending on the area. And then there's the standard 203K.
That's the heavy lifter.
That's the one.
Yeah.
If you have structural issues, foundation problems, or you're literally adding a second story, you use the standard. It's more paperwork for sure, but it lets you buy a house that's basically uninhabitable and bring it back to life.
Okay, so that's the tool, but just fixing up a house for myself doesn't make me a rich dad investor.
No, it doesn't.
If I do that, I'm just a homeowner with a shiny new kitchen. I'm still in the E quadrant, just with a nicer place to sleep.
You are 100% right. And this is where the strategy from Aaron the house person comes into play. He calls it 203K Tuesday. But it's really about playing Monopoly in real life.
4 greenhouses, 1 red hotel.
That's the game. But people forget the first rule of being the landlord in Monopoly. You need someone to land on your property and pay your rent. The strategy here is to use the 203K loan not for a single-family home, but to buy a multi-unit property.
And the FHA allows that.
Up to 4 units. As long as you live in one of them for at least a year, it counts as your primary residence.
And that is a magic loophole.
It is. Because it's a primary residence, you qualify for the super low down payment. Just 3.5%.
Okay, let's pause on that. 3.5%. If we're talking about say, a $400,000 building, that's a down payment of what, $14,000?
Roughly, yeah. And the source even notes that money can be a gift from family. So the barrier to entry is just shockingly low compared to a typical investment loan.
Which would be like 25% down.
Easily.
Okay, now let's get into the numbers from Aaron's example, because this is where I need to play devil's advocate. He outlines buying a fourplex. You live in 1 unit, you rent the other 3.
Right.
And in his example, the rental income covers the entire mortgage and then some. It actually puts money in your pocket.
Yes. In the Baltimore example from this source, the total mortgage is around $2,000 a month. The rental income from the other 3 units is over $4,000. So you have a positive cash flow of $2,000 a month.
I have to stop you there. I'm looking at these numbers. You're living for free. Plus you're making $2,000 a month profit. If it's this obvious, why isn't everyone doing it? What's the catch? Why isn't every 25-year-old a landlord?
Because of the grit we mentioned at the beginning. This isn't passive income yet. You are literally moving into a construction site. You're dealing with dust, noise, contractors who don't show up. And then, once the work is done, you're living next door to your tenants.
So if their toilet breaks at midnight, they're not calling some faceless management company.
They are knocking on your door.
Okay.
In the beginning, yes, you are paying for that future equity with your current discomfort. Most people want comfort now. They want the quiet street and the granite countertops on day 1.
So you're sacrificing a year or 2 of luxury to build a financial engine.
It is the absolute definition of delayed gratification.
Yeah.
But look at the math again. Even if you don't make a profit, forget the profit. Let's say you just buy a duplex. Your mortgage is $2,000. Your tenant pays you $1,500.
So you're living for $500 a month.
Which is, you can't even rent a room for that in most cities.
No way.
So savings is a form of earning. By stabilizing your biggest expense housing, you free up all this capital. You've moved from the E quadrant logic of I pay for everything to the I quadrant logic of my asset pays for me.
There's another layer here I want to unpack. I think it's the most creative part of this whole strategy. It's this idea of scaling from an investor to a business owner.
The internal economy.
Yes. Explain that.
This is a fascinating concept. It bridges that gap between the I and the B quadrants.
So the idea is, once you have this building, you don't just sit back and collect rent.
No. You look at what services the building needs. I mean, a fourplex needs maintenance, right? The hallways have to be cleaned. The lawn needs to be mowed.
Right. And a typical landlord just hires Joe's Landscaping and writes a check. That money is gone.
But the source suggests you start your own landscaping company.
Why?
Create an LLC. Call it Deep Dive Services. Your real estate entity, the building, hires deep dive services to mow the lawn.
But wait, isn't that just moving money from my left pocket to my right pocket? I mean, why bother with all the paperwork?
Two huge reasons: taxes and scalability. First, that payment for lawn care is a legitimate expense for the building, so it lowers its taxable income. But more importantly, you are building a track record for a brand new business.
How so?
Well, if you want to go get a business loan for a new truck or something, the bank wants to see revenue. They want to see contracts.
Ah, so by hiring yourself, your new company has a client from day one.
Guaranteed revenue. So you can use that track record to go get other clients. You go to the building next door and say, hey, I already managed the grounds for this fourplex. I can do yours too.
And now you're not just a landlord, you're a business owner.
You've built a system that can grow. You've created an ecosystem where your assets feed your businesses and your businesses service your assets.
That is how you actually build wealth.
And you're doing it all starting with a 3.5% down payment on a government-insured loan. That's why we called it a cheat code.
It does require a huge shift in how you look at debt, though.
It absolutely does.
Most of us are just terrified of debt. We're taught debt is bad. If you have debt, you're losing.
And for 90% of people, that is true because they have consumer debt. They borrowed money for a TV or a vacation. That's bad debt. It just takes money out of your pocket.
But this is good debt.
It's good debt.
Yeah.
Good debt is when you borrow money to buy an asset that pays for the debt itself. If your tenants are covering the mortgage, you don't really have the debt. The asset has the debt. You just control the asset.
That's the rich dad distinction. The rich don't own things. They control things.
And they use the bank's money to get that control.
Which brings us back to mindset. Aaron, the expert source, he talked about can versus can't.
Yeah, it sounds like a cheesy poster in a guidance counselor's office.
Yeah.
But it's really about how your brain filters information.
How so?
If you say, I can't afford a fourplex, your brain just shuts off. The problem solved. The answer is no. You stop looking.
But if you ask, how can I afford a fourplex?
Your brain is forced to go to work. It starts looking for anomalies, for loopholes, for things like the 203K loan. And suddenly, you don't see a rundown house anymore. You see a red hotel opportunity.
Okay, so let's bring this all home for the listener who's, at the gym or sitting traffic right now. What's the real takeaway? We're not telling everyone to go quit their job and become a construction foreman.
No, not at all. The takeaway is to audit your position. Look at your life through the lens of that quadrant. If you stopped working today, if your active income went to zero, how long could you survive?
That's a terrifying question. For a lot of people, the answer is like 2 weeks.
And if the answer is not long, then you are too heavily weighted on the left side of that quadrant. You're vulnerable. This 203K strategy is just one example of a bridge, a way to take control of your single biggest monthly expense, or housing, and turn it into your first active asset.
It's about viewing your home not as a trophy, but as a business.
Don't just buy a home. Buy a business that you happen to live in. If you make that one shift, you will be financially light years ahead of someone who just buys a perfect turnkey house at the top of the market.
And realizing that the ugly house on the block isn't a mess. It's a calm little Monopoly board just waiting for a player.
It's opportunity dressed in overalls.
We'll leave you with this to think about. We talked about how the rich use debt to get richer. Take a look at your own debt this week. Not just the amount, but what kind of debt it is. Is your debt working for you, building an asset?
Or is it working for the bank, keeping you chained to the E quadrant? If it is, maybe it's time to stop looking for a better job and start looking for a better system.
Thanks for diving deep with us. We'll see you next time.